Okay, let's get started. So welcome everyone to tonight's webinar. My name is Rafi Shulman, and I'm the co-founder of Olim Advisors. It's a pleasure to have you here tonight. We have over 310 people who have registered from around the world, from Israel and from around the world. And it's mind-boggling to me and so inspiring when you think about what's going on in the world, and especially in Israel. The fact that people are interested in making Aliyah, the fact that people are interested in finding different communities in Israel, the fact that people in Israel want to get more information and are joining us together tonight is just amazing. And so it's our pleasure and our honor to really be here and share with you information to guide you and to help you in any way that we can. Before we get started, just a few quick things. The first thing is we are going to be recording this, so we are recording the webinar, and we'll go ahead and send out an email probably by Tuesday to everyone who has registered. So if you have come late or if you have to leave early, don't worry about it. We're going to go ahead and send an email to everybody so you can watch it at your convenience. Also, if you have friends or if you know of anybody who weren't able to attend tonight, please share it with them. There are a lot of people that are interested in this topic and just for whatever reason weren't able to join us tonight. So feel free to share it with anybody that you know who might be interested. We'll also have our contact information at the end, and we're going to reach out to you and try and schedule time to talk one-on-one. But we also encourage you to reach out to us. We're not going to be able to get to everybody's questions, and a lot of times people have very specific, very detailed questions that we just can't get to in this format in the webinar. And so we want to schedule these calls with you to really understand what you're trying to accomplish, your questions, your goals, your concerns, and really help you in any way that we can. So definitely reach out to us. And if we reach out to you, please just take a moment and respond. Let's schedule some time so that we can talk to you. Okay, so before I introduce you to the panel, I just want to take a couple of minutes and talk to you about Olim Advisors and explain to you who we are and why we host these webinars. So we started Olim Advisors back in 2016 with really two goals in mind. The first goal was to help and guide people who are thinking about making Aliyah, people who are planning on making Aliyah, with some of the big and the challenging decisions that one has to make before they make Aliyah. So whether it's choosing the right community, finding schools for kids, choosing healthcare coverage, deciding what to ship, those of you who have made Aliyah know there's a lot of decisions that you have to make. And it's hard. It's hard to make those decisions from abroad. And so we're here to guide you through that process to give you advice and really help you come up with a plan. The second part of the second goal really, and what we want to accomplish is to help people once you get to Israel. And it's not just in the first week or the first month. Those of you who are living in Israel already know that it can be challenging from time to time. Things come up. And so the first thing we help with is dealing with the bureaucracy when you get here. So whether it's going to the different government offices, opening up a bank account, getting your healthcare coverage, you name it, there's a lot of things that you have to do. And ideally, you do it as quickly as possible. And so we're here to guide you through the process and to help you. And then just for any ongoing situations that come up, keep in mind you're moving to a different country with different culture, different language, and things come up that maybe in the US, UK, Australia, wherever you might be from, weren't so much of an issue, but in Israel sometimes that can be challenging. So we're kind of like your go-to person, your destination, your resource to really give you that peace of mind to know that you have somebody here that's got your back. And the last thing that we expanded into a couple of years ago is helping people buy a home in Israel. Whether you're living outside of Israel and you want to buy a home for down the road, or maybe you're making Aliyah, or maybe it's for your kids or for investment purpose, or whether you're living in Israel, because most Olim, when they make Aliyah, don't buy a home in Israel. Most buyers have two main concerns. The first one is, what's the process look like? The process of buying a home in Israel is very different from the States, UK, Australia, South Africa, and other countries. And the second thing is, who should you trust? Who should you work with? What realtor, what developer, what mortgage broker, what real estate lawyer? And so we decided that we wanted to help with this process because unfortunately, a lot of people are being taken advantage of. And so we wanted to try and put a stop to that and really guide people through that entire process from finding a community to finding a home to finding the right people to work with, to closing the deal as quickly as smoothly as possible. So I really want to encourage you to reach out to us. Any questions that you might have, if there's anything that we can do to help you, feel free to reach out to us. And again, I'll have our contact information at the end. So with that, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our wonderful panel of speakers who are joining us tonight. So we'll start with Lori Lustig, who lives in Tel Aviv. Hi, Lori. Then we'll move over to Shaya and Leah Safan, who live in Netanya. Hi, are you here?
Hi.
Okay, great, there you are. Next is Lynn Friedman, who lives in Ramat Shemesh.
Hello.
Hi, Lynn. Next is Gail Cantor, who lives in Yerushalayim. Hi, Gail. And last but not least, Chuck Feinstein, who lives in Nahariya. And Chuck also happens to be an employee of Olim Advisors. Hi, Chuck.
Hi. Hello. Hello. Hello.
So thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate your time and we appreciate your willingness to share with us your insight and your advice. So let's get started. These are the topics that we wanted to cover today. And what I'm going to do tonight is we'll go around the room. We'll go around each individual person and really in a few minutes cover these different topics so that you get a different perspective. Each one has their own experience. Each one has their own feedback. And so we want to try and share with you as much information as possible. So Lori, let's start with you. If you can share with everybody what your experience was like, what your Aliyah experience was like.
Well, can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah,
Can you
loud
hear
and
me?
clear.
Okay. Okay. I met Rafi 2 years ago, and I came during COVID. So it was different than it is now. Of course, now it's very different than anything, but I came alone. Any of my friends who were Israelis were already in America. They weren't here in Israel. So for me, having Rafi, having someone to reach out to talk to help guide me was absolutely, I'm just going to say I couldn't have done it without him. I could not have done it without Rafi, and I could not have done it without Olim Advisors. I was in the COVID hotel, and he's busy making all my appointments. I couldn't fill out the paperwork. It was in Hebrew. I knew Shalom and Boker Tov, and that was about all I knew. And I told Rafi, I said, my life is an open book to you. Just tell me what documents you want from me. And he filled out the paperwork. But it went very smoothly. I gave myself 6 weeks to get all of the ministries and paperwork done. And then I went back to America to take care of winding up some things and, all the house and the moving and all of that. So when I came back in June of 2022, that was actually the move, and I have been here since. So I've been here about 18 months. Doing it in my 60s, it wasn't a choice of when to do it in terms of age. I'm in good health, but I did it alone. I did all of the Nefesh B'Nefesh Zoom videos. I lined up all of my professional. I lined up the doctor. I didn't line up. Doctor I didn't get until I came back last year. But lawyers, accountants, insurance brokerage. I reached out to all of them ahead of time. I had talked to them by Zoom ahead of time. And so I had I did a lot of my homework. And I also did all of the Zooms that Nefesh B'Nefesh did on choosing a community. And I had been in Israel in 2015. And I told everyone that if my synagogue tour had ended in Tel Aviv, I would not have gotten on the plane to go home. I love the beach. Never lived near the beach. Lived in a desert in Arizona, no water. But I just fell in love with Tel Aviv. And for me, having been a New Yorker, having family in the city, having lived in New York City for several years, and I'm in Old North. I'm in the Old North neighborhood of Tel Aviv. And I tell people it's like what the Upper West Side was like when it was nice to live in the Upper West Side of New York. I just like that feeling. And by the way, I was an Upper East Side girl when I lived in the city, but I really like Tel Aviv. It has everything I need, and the neighborhood I'm in, no matter whether I walk east or west or north or south or diagonally, I can get to almost everything just walking. Occasionally I take the bus. When it's very hot, I take a cab. But all of that works very smoothly. Okay, Rafi, I'm through 1 and 2. I decided, just keep me on course. I decided to rent simply because I didn't know where to live exactly. I didn't have the time in terms of boots on the ground to find a place. In fact, I didn't even see the apartment that I'm in. The realtor that Rafi had recommended had done a walkthrough, sent me pictures, sent me videos, and it's had a few challenges, but actually it turned out to be a really good apartment, a really good neighborhood that I'm in. Lifestyle. I'm not sure what you mean, Rafi.
So just on your day-to-day basis, or week to week, in terms of activities, what is your day? You work also, so what does your day kind of look like? That's what I was referring to.
Well, trying to stay on a schedule is not that easy. I work. I still work. I teach online. So between classes and grading, and I teach at the university level and semesters, that takes up a fair amount of time. I take Ulpan. I was in the public Ulpan. I recommend that you do it because you don't have to pay for it. You're not going to learn a lot of Hebrew, but you'll learn some, and you'll meet a lot of good people, some of whom I'm still friends with. And then after we got done, I realized how little Hebrew I still knew, and I actually have signed up to I take private lessons. It was a little expensive at first. I'm now down to doing it by Zoom. Actually, the war moved me over from in-person to Zoom, but it really helped maximize my time. A lot of the Ulpan, when I was in the public Ulpan, it was 2 days a week. It was 4 hours in the afternoons. Most of the others, once you leave that, they want you to come 3 days a week, 4 hours a day. It just ate up too much time. And the class I was in was for what they call pensioners. That means retirees. They say we're not old, but we're retirees. But honestly, between working, Ulpan, cleaning the house, shopping for Shabbat, taking a day for Shabbat, the weeks just fly. The weeks just fly by. The nice thing about Tel Aviv is you walk out your door, you walk a block or two, you hang a right or a left, and there's a coffee shop. I mean, there's tons of coffee shops. So you go and you get a cup of coffee and you sit and you meet people and you talk to people. And, for a while I was on a mission to find every cheese Danish I could, and then it was chocolate croissants. And I have a bakery for where I buy my challah, and I have a bakery for where I buy desserts. I mean, it's just you find and you meet the vendors, and everybody is wonderful. I mean, everybody is wonderful, even these last 3 months. Okay, advice on healthcare coverage. Oh, by the way, I did join a shul. If you're conservative from America in Tel Aviv, you will not find very many conservative shuls. There's one in Netzedek. There's one in Ramat Aviv. I live in between the two in Old North. And the problem with Shabbat is, and I don't have a car, and I'm not going to have a car. I'm not going to drive. You can't go anywhere. I mean, you can't get too far because everything stops on Shabbat. I mean, it stops. And if you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, you remember what Sundays were like in America in the good old days, where everything stopped on Sunday because you went to church. We didn't go to church, but they stopped everything because they assumed everyone else went to church. Everything pretty much shuts down. There's some restaurants that are open, but in terms of buses and transportation, you're not really going to find it. So I am now modern Orthodox, and I like the synagogue. I'm modern Orthodox because I attend the synagogue and I go to the services. But I like the rabbi, and I can walk. But since October 7th, I don't really walk on Saturdays because there's nothing to duck into if the sirens go off. And October 7th was a Shabbat and the sirens went off. And so you just kind of are a little gun shy. But
What
you
about,
know,
oh,
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
sorry, Lori. I was just going to ask you for the healthcare. What kind of coverage did you choose, and why did you choose that healthcare coverage?
I chose Maccabi because that's the biggest one in Tel Aviv. And so you have the most flexibility. I found a really good doctor who's originally from America and American trained and speaks English. And I really like him, and I've referred him to a friend.
Okay.
I also have the additional private health insurance, the extra insurance. I pay for it. It's expensive in the sense it's not expensive compared to American insurance, and I have used it once or twice for an additional doctor's visit, and I got reimbursed. So it works very smoothly. The insurance brokerage fills out the forms for me. They deal with the insurance company, and so I work with them, and they speak English.
Great.
Um,
And what
so
tips, sorry, if you just had a couple of quick tips for people who are either thinking about making Aliyah, whether they're semi-retired like you are, or retired, or they live in Israel already and maybe they're about to retire. If you can, share a couple of quick tips with them, what would you tell them?
Find a good accountant, because even if your work is all back in America, and I do it on the computer, you still pay Israeli taxes, which I don't mind. I live in Israel. They give me a lot. I mean, all the Aliyah benefits. I have no problems with that. So you're going to pay taxes to Israel, and then you're going to get a credit on your American taxes. So you definitely want to find a good accountant, someone you feel comfortable working with, who can help you with that. And it's worked fine.
And
the
one
other
other tip. Yeah.
Okay, what was I going to say? This is a mindset. One of the videos I listened to, I remember hearing a gentleman, he was older, and he said, it's not going to be like America, and it isn't like America, but it's different. And if you have a positive attitude and you're willing to be flexible and work with people, there's nothing that you're going to find that can't be overcome. You'll find a way around it. You'll find a way to work with it. And as I've said several times, everyone is helpful. In fact, last month my computer died, and I needed a computer guy. I don't have a computer guy in Israel. And I contacted Rafi, and he gave me his computer guy in Modi'in. And I went to Modi'in, and we didn't fix my computer, but he wound up helping me set up a new one. And he was very helpful, and he was very good. So thank you, Rafi.
That's great.
So if you use Olim Advisors, I can honestly tell you, even if you think you're coming alone, you're not alone, because you always can contact Rafi, or I haven't worked with his sister, to get referrals and to get advice and to get guidance. And it's just an adventure.
Great. Thank you, Lori. Thank you so much. All right, Leah and Shaya, you guys are up.
Okay.
Well, you can't see our beautiful
Your
faces.
camera's not on. Can you just turn on the camera?
I don't know what's happening. The camera isn't seem to be working here. You'll just have to picture us.
We look as funny as we always have.
Okay, go ahead. So the first thing is, if you can just talk a little bit about your Aliyah experience and what that was like.
Go ahead. Well, we're a bit older than Lori. We're between the 70s and 80s. And it took us 50 years of talking about this to get here. So we were certainly none too swift. We have everybody left in Artsot Habrit. We have all the grandchildren, all the children, the sisters, their families. It's an issue that we came to with great conviction,
but many of them have visited us, and we've had two granddaughters in seminary that have spent a lot of time with us. we've only been here 2.5 years.
We too came during COVID, and it actually was all a pretty pleasant experience. We moved to Netanya for the reason that there were Tilim falling in Yerushalayim, where we had an Airbnb, and we didn't particularly think that was a good idea. Leah especially didn't think it was a good idea. So she looked at the map and said, well, since 67, it's probably a pretty fair place to think of in Merkaz Yisrael. And so we came to Netanya, and
we had never been here before during all of our trips to Israel.
Wow.
Missed it. We have some friends in Baltimore who actually said, well, where are you going to go? And we said, well, we don't know, but the first stop is Netanya. And of course, one of their relatives lived here, and that made life a lot easier.
And they really, after our granddaughter left from visiting with us when she finished seminary, she went back to the US. And we called these people that had been recommended to us to get to know Netanya. And we just clicked like we had been best friends for decades. And they showed us around, and we fell in love with Netanya because my husband, Shia, here is from Long Beach, California, used to being on the water. And I'm from Napa Valley, which isn't near the water, but I was born in San Francisco. And after we had lived in New Jersey for 7 years, he retired.
Don't recommend it.
He retired. Yes, it's snowing today. He retired, and we moved to Florida, Sarasota, Florida, on the West Coast, so we can still watch the sunset. And here we are in Netanya, walking along the Mediterranean every day, enjoying the heck out of it, watching the sunset, which is gorgeous. I spend my time painting, which I've done for many decades, reading, cooking, causing trouble.
Hey, I work for her, so you can imagine what I do.
He retired from medicine, and he's in Florida. He had a beautiful workshop, wood workshop in our 2-car garage, which I made him leave. But we share our bedroom here. Part of it's an art studio, and part of it's his woodworking area.
Worked out all right.
Sounds that way.
We thought we were going to rent, and we saw places to rent, but we heard horror stories of people living in a rented place for decades, and all of a sudden they're in their, maybe 80s or even older, and they're told that by the owner that they want to sell it or give it to a grandchild or something like that. And we just, it's hard to sleep, thinking that we were going to be put out on the street. So we bit the bullet and bought a beautiful place with a view of the Mediterranean. And we can't complain. We're very happy here.
We'd do better if we get you and Laura to come and see it, Rafi.
We'd love that. We'd love to do that. Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the healthcare coverage and what you ended up doing in terms of the Kupat Cholim and what level of coverage you have?
Well, we're Shali members of Maccabi, and that was my business before. I have to tell you that the Israeli medical system is outstanding, and Maccabi in itself has nothing to be at all ashamed of. The truth is that Israel has only 7 million people, and that means you can only train so many doctors. So that means we need to import them. It's true, but we've imported a fair number, and you can hear Lori has an American trained and educated doctor, and they abound. We happen to see a South African doctor. We've seen a few.
But they speak the language too.
If you're an advanced medical practitioner, it's hard not to have come across a fair amount of English. And while we're not typical patients, one, we're reasonably healthy, and two, we can talk doctor, which gives us a little bit of an advantage in that setting. But I think that if you're looking for coverage, you want to make sure that, as Lori did, that there's plenty of availability in your neighborhood. And there are 4 kupot, and there's a reason for that. They offer different things in different areas, and you won't be able to pick on an abstract basis. You really need a locale to decide who's going to be able to serve you best.
And just to add, I'm sorry, just to add to or to explain what Shaya was referring to. So the 4 kupots are in essence 4 companies like the HMOs that you're familiar with. So in essence, there are 4 companies to choose from. They're all regulated by the government and provide more or less the same coverage, more or less the same basket of medication. There are some differences, but like Lori and Shaya and Leah said, what most people look at as a deciding factor is finding doctors that they feel comfortable in their community, in their city. And based on where those doctors, based on which network they belong to, that's typically the network of the kupa that people choose. Not always, but in most cases, that is. Len and Shai also mentioned Maccabi Shali, and all the HMOs, all the kupot have different levels. So it's still highly subsidized coverage. It's not the private coverage that Lori was talking about. It's a higher level where you pay in a little bit more, but it's relatively inexpensive, and it just gives you some additional benefits. So just for those of you who are not familiar, I just wanted to share that quickly.
And if you're over 75 and you come here, you're really not eligible for private coverage that has any quality to it. I don't want to disparage. There is one company that provides it, but they have a reputation for being the very best contesters of every payment. So I would tell you that if you come and you're older than 75, you don't have to worry about private insurance here.
I just wanted to add that we did purchase a car here, and we use it very little because we live in the north part of Netanya, and in the north part, you can walk to everything. And it's just fabulous. I mean, not only do we enjoy walking along the Mediterranean, but you can walk into town, you can walk to the main Maccabi, all the shopping is available. It's really fabulous.
Sounds like a wonderful life. And what if you had a tip or two to share with people, again, whether they're looking to make Aliyah, maybe somebody's been living in Israel for a while and they're looking more for a community that's semi-retired or retired, that's kind of suitable for them. What tip or two would you share with people?
Put Netanya on your list for sure, Rafi, because it has an aging Anglo population that's well entrenched. You need to know that many of these Netanyans are second generation, and some of them third generation here, who have migrated from all over the English-speaking world. And the synagogue we belong to, Dati Leumi Synagogue, by the way, is just celebrated its 50th anniversary. And this is a country that if you find where a shul has a drasha that's occasionally in English, that might be good. But here, the Rav who went to Keren B'Yavna and fought in Lebanon is a guy who will give you a drash in English and do his own after translation in Hebrew. And if you come this way, we'll be happy to show you all the other shuls, but this is our choice. There are more shuls in Netanya per capita than any other city in all of Israel.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Shaya. Really appreciate it. All right, Lynn, we'll move on to you.
Oh, hi, everybody. I had been dreaming of making Aliyah since I was a young teenager. And then the opportunity came up, and about 2 years ago, I made Aliyah. Um, there really was not much thought going on into where I want to live because I have two daughters with their families who moved to Beit Shemesh, and it seemed really silly to move around the world and live away from my children. So without ever stepping foot in Beit Shemesh, I moved to Beit Shemesh. I actually moved at the tail end of COVID. So I was a little disappointed that there weren't like bells and whistles and bands and balloons when I got off the plane. I wanted all of that, but it didn't happen. I settled in Beit Shemesh. I at first I rented, but I had heard stories similar to Leah's story where, there were people who were renting and then suddenly the owner decided to sell, give it to their child or whatever. So basically, as soon as I settled, I started looking for a place to buy. I was super lucky. We have like a family, it's like almost like a family group. Like we use the same real estate agent, we go to the same doctor, we are in the same kupa, we use the same kablan, the same person to do our renovations. So it was really very easy. I found a marvelous real estate agent who actually treated me more like a parent than a customer, who told me what area of Beit Shemesh he wanted me to live in, which was better for my needs, where there were more, we'll call us mature people. I am single, so that was part of his thought process. And I actually found the most marvelous apartment that I sort of took apart and put back together. With the help of this real estate agent, his name is Rob. He's absolutely amazing. I found a couple, Bacha and Hananel, who are a designer and a contractor. They made me the apartment of my dreams. And basically, life has gone swimmingly. When I first got here, my daughter Chagit had worked with Lara. Chagit Stark is my daughter, so she was working with Lara. And it was just part of the family thing. If one part of the family works with Olim Advisors, the rest of the family works with Olim Advisors. So I was treated to the nicest, sweetest, most understanding people to help me to do everything that I needed. A driver's license, teudat zahut, just marvelous. There was a very cute story when we went for my driver's license. I didn't know, but apparently I had COVID. And we had to go from the driving agency to a mall to get a picture taken or my eyes examined, one of those. And I almost passed out on the street. And Shabolet Fisher,
she's one of our advisors, yeah.
Yes, she was amazing. She ran and she got me something to drink and something to eat, and basically she would have put me on her back to get the job done. She is
amazing.
She is the most caring, and I almost got hit by a car. It was a red letter day. But so basically I chose the community because that's where my kids were. I decided to buy. My lifestyle is basically when I came here, I was working for a company in the US. I do online bookkeeping. And recently I became an Israeli employee of an Israeli company. So I'm very excited about that change. Still doing bookkeeping. I actually walked into this place called Montrose Financial. They're the ones who I go to when I need to get money from the United States. They're awesome, awesome people. They use QuickBooks. They needed a quick lesson on something, and I went in there. I spent an hour with him, and a year later they hired me.
Great. Worked
So
out well.
that's
What do you,
so
what do
I'm
you, sorry, what do you do for the healthcare? Which Kupat Cholim do you have?
okay. So we all have the entire family. We all have Maccabi Shali.
Okay.
And the reason I picked it was because Nava picked it and Hagit picked it, and it worked out really well. And I pride myself on going to the doctor as little as possible. I'm very impressed with Maccabi. They seem to care about my health more than I do. So they remind me when I need to have diagnostics done, when I need to have, any kind of examination. Amazing, wonderful.
Great.
I'm very happy.
What about a tip or two, just quickly, a quick tip or two for people who are thinking of making Aliyah, people that are looking for a community that live already in Israel?
Okay, so if for people of our age, I would recommend Beit Shemesh. Um, if you need a shear, we have shiurim for women, for men. Literally, you can spend your whole week going to shiurim. There's enough shuls from enough different divisions. Since the beginning of the war, I have never seen so much chesed going on in my community. We have a Beit Shemesh chat, and it's just a wonderful, cohesive, beautiful, non-judgmental community. The only thing is, if you're a little lazy, I did buy a car, and I use my car not quite a bit. I fill it up. I actually bought a gas car, and I fill it up once a month, but it's local driving. There's no store like right by me, but it's a wonderful community. Not so hilly, which is an important thing. A little bit of hills, not so bad. And my greatest advice that I would give people who are considering making Aliyah or going through is to relax. If it doesn't get done today, it'll get done tomorrow. And if it's not tomorrow, especially in our stage of life, okay, if it takes a couple of more days, it's not a big deal. Through my Aliyah experience, I just stayed chilled and relaxed, and it went swimmingly.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, Gail, we'll switch over to you now.
Okay. So I made Aliyah with my husband. He's just busy this evening and wasn't available. And we also made Aliyah just over 2 years ago during COVID, Corona, whatever you call it. And we chose to move to Yerushalayim because we already have, basically, we've had children, all three of our children had made Aliyah, although only two of them are living here. The other one lives in Toronto. We made Aliyah from Philadelphia. We no longer have any children in the United States. We had children and grandchildren here, and during Corona, we couldn't see them. So that was and we had a lot of time on our hands. So we just sort of started the process of making Aliyah. And, but we chose Yerushalayim. We had, since our first grandson was born 17 and a half years ago, we had come to Israel several times before then, but from the time he was born, we were coming here several times a year. And we were always renting the exact same apartment of someone that we knew. And we knew the neighborhood well. We knew the shuls. We had friends who had made Aliyah who lived in the area. So when we came, we knew we wanted to live in this same area because we liked it. We knew it. We really appreciated it. We have one daughter who lives in Yerushalayim, which is nearby. And our son who lives our daughter lives with her family. Our son lives with his family in Tel Aviv. So they love coming to Yerushalayim. The older kids are big enough to come by themselves. They think, oh, we're so jealous. Our friends are so jealous. Their grandparents live in Yerushalayim, and they bring their friends here. They stop. Oh, we're going to the hotel. Okay, let's come here and make some breakfast. And it's like they love coming here. So, and we have friends here. So that's why we chose to live in Yerushalayim. And we knew pretty early on that we should buy, for the same reason that other people said, that we didn't want to be renting and then be tossed out when we were too old to deal with it. So we tried a few realtors, and it's very different, buying real estate here than it is in the States, because like different realtors have different properties. It's not quite the same. The realtor that we used, actually, my husband met, and my mechutin introduced him. It turns out it was this was in Cheshmonaim. It turns out, I think this is the same person that at least one of the people that Olim Advisors recommends.
Correct.
So, and he was wonderful. He was really, really wonderful. And here you also need an attorney when you buy real estate. And that we found, we actually knew someone who had been living in Philadelphia and is an attorney here who was incredibly helpful. So we bought an apartment here.
And what was your lifestyle? Like I said, like the day-to-day, week to week, what do you typically do?
Okay, so
just to out of trouble.
I do a pun 2 times a week. I also do my experience is slightly different. I asked friends also which ulpan they did, and people recommended this. It's also a public one. It's like, because I came during Corona, I seem to have gotten more free time of ulpan, and you could choose 2 times a week, 3 times a week, or 5 times a week. You could do any of those choices. I chose 2 times a week because I wasn't like rushing. Oh, I have to do a lot and then go get a job. I wasn't planning to do that. And I wanted to do only 2, so I would have time to do other things in my life. And then after the free part runs out, then you can continue on for as long as you want and pay. And I have, so that gives structure to my day. And then I do, just like, especially now with the war, I have a son-in-law who's a chayal and miluim, and so I'm doing my daughter and her family were living with us for a while, and it was a lot of child responsibilities, but that's different. Get together with friends. I have friends, and I have both friends and we have friends and relatives in the neighborhood, so we do things with them. Somebody was talking about shuls. There's a shul really nearby here that is so much like the one that we left in Philadelphia, so much so that when I went to shul one day, the Rebbitzin from the shul, and I was sitting right next to where I was. Rebbitzin from Philadelphia happened to be visiting and was sitting like on the same row that I always sit on. And it also is a huge amount of Anglos there, and the rabbi gives a drasha every week in Hebrew and in English. And what else?
What about healthcare? Which healthcare?
Healthcare. So that I asked around people. I asked people. Again, I asked people for recommendations, what they recommended for this area and for doctors. And we have Maccabi Shali also. Okay. And I chose a doctor that other people had recommended, and she's wonderful, and she speaks English, and there's people in the office that speak English, so it's very easy to maneuver.
And what about a tip for somebody who's making Aliyah, people that are living here? Well, what tip would you share with them?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think.
You don't have anything, that's fine. You've shared a lot of information. That's perfect. I appreciate it.
Definitely use Olim Advisors to help you.
I appreciate it.
Amazing. We could not have done so many things. Like, we couldn't have figured out. We didn't even have to think, okay, just do this. You have an appointment at X, Y, at this time. It was like, they were amazing. Thank
you. Okay. Chuck, before we get to you, I just want to pause for one moment. We actually want to do a poll here and just get your input, because of course, finding the right community, finding the right accommodations, the housing is so important. And so we're working with somebody who's looking to plan out a community for semi-retired and retired people. And we just wanted to get your thoughts, in essence, 3 questions. One is your preference. Would you prefer to live in like a 55 plus community? Or would you just be more comfortable or prefer to live in just an apartment in the city? The second question, and that's of course not taking into account cost, because cost can really influence it. The second question we want to get your input on is what factors are important to you when you choose your accommodation? And then the third thing is how far do you want to be from Jerusalem if you do, because a lot of people want to. So if you can I'll just launch the poll. If you guys can take a couple of minutes and just provide us with information, we'll then get to Chuck, and then we'll do a Q&A session at the end, and we'll wrap things up. So let me just launch the poll here. Okay. Does everyone see the poll?
Yep.
Yeah.
So if everyone can just take a couple of minutes and just share your information.
Rafi, unable to, it's not taking my input.
Maybe because you're a host, a presenter.
It says on the bottom, hosts and panelists cannot vote.
Okay. Yeah, we already know what you guys think. This is for everybody else.
Oh.
So yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, it's just for everybody else that's participating. We want to get a better sense of what's important to you, so we can plan things out. So thank you everyone for sharing your feedback. We'll just let it go for another minute or so, and then we'll get back to Chuck. And like I said, go ahead and then we'll do.
Okay, one thing I didn't say. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay, one thing I didn't say is we do not have a car, which is by choice. It's difficult to park in Yerushalayim, and there's fantastic bus and train service, so that we can usually get by without needing a car. When we need a car, it's very easy to rent a car for an hour, by the hour, by the day, by the week, whatever.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay, we'll just let everybody finish responding, and then we'll end the poll, and we'll get back to our programming. Okay. Great, thank you. So let me just go and end the poll now.
Okay.
Okay, and then just one last thing before we get to Chuck. Lynn had spoken about Rob, who's a realtor in Ramat Beit Shemesh, and it's somebody that we work with very closely. And so if you're thinking about buying or renting in Ramat Beit Shemesh, just reach out to me. I'll be happy to put you in touch with them. He is really a fantastic person to work with. So just as an aside. Okay, Chuck, let's get to you and just if you can share with us your shorts, and I know we're running a little bit long, so if you can focus on the topics, and then we'll get to the Q&A session. Thank you.
So I made Aliyah. Hi, I live in Nahariya, which is way up on the north coast. I am married, but my story is completely different than everybody else. I came on split Aliyah because my wife is still working, and I came from living in Germany, so I used the Jewish agency instead of Nefesh B'Nefesh. But that's okay. So I didn't have the support of all the information and an advisor from Nefesh B'Nefesh, but this goes into my tip. Do your research. Go out there, join all the Facebook groups from all the different communities and all the places, talk to people, because this was during COVID, when we were making the decision. So you really need to be organized, make contacts and research and talk to people and ask questions. And that's how I learned quite a bit. So I stayed with my son in Herzliya for a few months when I did land, but that was just temporarily, just to get started. And I chose the community of Nahariya after, I had a list of what I was looking for, what my wife and I were looking for. And I just got a Ravkov card. I took the train and I went to the different communities I was interested in, talked to people, looked around, and we ended up in Nahariya because my wife did Sar El and made friends in Nahariya, and I reached out to them, and I took the train from Herzliya to Nahariya. They showed me around, fell in love with the place because it's flat. I can ride my bike. I got gimpy knees, so I need a place where I can ride my bike. It's big enough to have everything, small enough so it's not overpowering. I live right in the center, so it's a 10-minute walk to the beach, 10-minute walk to the train station, in between two busy commercial streets, and everything is very super duper convenient. We've got a great Anglo retiree community, and we have people who are on the religious scale from 0 to 100. So if you want to people do a lot of surfing and swimming and nature and clean up the beach and all that. This is before the war. And we have people who are very into shirim and study and all that. So we have a very varied lifestyle. Plus, we're a 40-minute train ride from Haifa with all the big city things that you could want. What we've been doing, because we are in the north and have a lot of military presence here, everyone in our community been very busy cooking and collecting. And in fact, today, we have a SAR L group where we go and volunteer for the day we were packing boxes for Tu B'Shvat snacks for troops. So we were working like crazy people today in the supply base in Haifa. So we do that kind of work. That's what our life is like. You can do as much or as little as you want. The beach is close. It's a beautiful place. That's the lifestyle. We do have the main shul is where most of the Anglos go, but you don't hear much in English. I choose to go to a local shul, which is full of guys who are Sephardi. They're from Morocco and Tunisia and whatever. Very warm. It's good to expand my horizons. I've learned a lot, and they use their prayer book. I use mine. Sometimes they're standing and I'm sitting. Sometimes I'm standing and they're sitting. No one cares. It's very nice. Very warm people. I like it very much. Advice on healthcare. I chose Liumit because I do have a few things going on, and I wanted to and I found that this is the smallest of the 4 Kupat Cholim, a little more personal, less crowded. All my specialists, all my doctors, pharmacists, secretaries, everyone speaks English. I find it very, very helpful. And we got a very nice hospital here in Nahariya. And again, Haifa, with a much bigger hospital choices, is very close by. And I chose the extra coverage, of course. And like I said, my tip, do your research, reach out to people. I came to Olim Advisors after I got to Israel. So I saw Rafi in a video when I was doing more research, and I used the bureaucracy program because I realized my son said he would help me, and he's a great guy, but he was going to school. So I didn't really, and I have lots of family, but everyone's working and whatever. So I needed help with the driver's license and bank and all that. And that's how I got involved. And then when the job position opened up a year or so later, here I am. So that's it in hopefully a short nutshell for you.
Thank you, Chuck. And I think it's important just the fact that, you are working part-time and we're very fortunate to have you as one of our salespeople. But I think that there are a lot of people who maybe aren't ready to just hang it up and not do anything. And a lot of people in their 60s and 70s and 80s have a lot to offer. And there are a lot of companies that are looking for people that have the experience. And so if that's something that you want to do and maybe reinvent yourself into a different career, there are plenty of opportunities to do that. So
I just want to add one of the benefits that you get is you can have some free. There's actually a series of seminars that you can get from an authorized provider paid for by the government to, if you want to start your own business. It was 10 hours of Zoom where they were talking about how to do social media, how to set up a business. And there's also 5 hours of mentoring. I mean, so if you want to do something else, they are looking for people to use their creativity if they want and create more economic stuff going on and create jobs and business. So, you can do as much or as little as you want. And I'm glad that I'm working some because it gives me some balance to the day. So, okay.
Great. Thank you, Chuck. Okay. I just want to quickly sum it up and then we're going to move on to questions. There's a lot of great questions here. So in essence, there's a lot of things that people should think about, semi-retired, retired people, whether you're living in Israel already or making Aliyah. And I just want to kind of summarize it so that you can leave with the takeaway things that you need to think about and look into. So first of all, financial considerations, whether that's the cost of living, buying or renting an apartment. It's different. The costs in some cases can be higher. Of course, it depends on your lifestyle. So that's something that you really want to look into. You want to be able to put together a budget. There's a Nefesh B'Nefesh budget that I can send you out a link. So if you want that, just that's something that's really important that you think about beforehand. And again, it doesn't have to just mean that you're making Aliyah. It could be that you're moving from one town to the next, and maybe it's a lot more expensive. The second thing which goes along with that is employment, like we just talked about. If you want to work, that might impact your lifestyle, where you live, what you do. And so it's something that you should definitely think through. You don't have to make the final decisions, but it is an important factor to keep in mind. Accommodations, as we talked about, there's a lot of choices, a lot of communities, a lot of home type styles. So you really want to do the research. You want to work with the right people, especially if you're looking to buy, but also to rent. The lifestyle, as you can see, 5 people or Shaya and Leah and then the 4 other people, different communities, different lifestyles. And so you really have an option here to pick your lifestyle. You can start a new chapter of your life with something that you've always wanted to do. And last but not least, healthcare. As you've heard about, there's a lot of options, and it's definitely something that you want to plan for. So with that, let's move over to the questions. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here. I'll just show you. Here's the contact information for myself and for Chuck. As I mentioned, he works with us. And so we'll send this around and you'll be able to reach out to us and we'll reach out to you as well. Let me just stop the sharing here and start looking at the questions. So one of the questions that came up here is, can you go back and forth? And a lot of people do that, especially during COVID. There's this misconception that you can't, once you make Aliyah, you kind of stuck here for a period of time, and that's not true at all. You can make Aliyah and the next day go back. You can travel the world, you can see the world. So there are definitely options. There are some implications, taxes and healthcare if you are out of the country for a longer period of time. So definitely check, reach out to us and we can talk about it. But in general, you can absolutely come and go as you please. Another question here specifically about Olim Advisors versus Nefesh B'Nefesh. And so it's a question that comes up a lot, so I want to talk about it for a moment. Nefesh B'Nefesh, the Jewish agency or the organizations that are responsible for reviewing and approving the Aliyah applications. So they deal with the bureaucracy. As I talked about at the beginning, Olim Advisor really We come in and help you make those practical decisions, those big decisions. And then, of course, when you get to Israel, the post-Aliyah support. So it's not Nefesh B'Nefesh or Olim Advisors or the Jewish Agency or Olim Advisors. Very often it's both. So, we very much complement what Nefesh B'Nefesh does. We met with Rabbi Fass, who's the founder, when we started out, and he gave us some great advice. So as people mentioned, definitely look for help, look for advice, and we were happy to do that for you. Okay, let's see. Making Aliyah from within versus from the US. So you do have that option of making Aliyah from within. If you want to get to Israel faster than it might take to process your Aliyah application, it is a possibility. If you're coming from the US, from North America, you can do so through Nefesh B'Nefesh. And again, reach out to us and we can explain to you what the process is. But you do, you can make Aliyah from within. Somebody had asked here about whether or not Lori teaches from America or Israel. So she's in Tel Aviv teaching online. And a lot of people do that. My wife, for example, is an occupational therapist, and she does OT, provides OT virtually to kids across the US. So there's many opportunities to work remotely, and it gives you a great opportunity to make a good salary and live in Israel. Okay, level of insurance we talked about. This is the question. Do you keep your Medicare in America? Chuck, what did you do?
I didn't sign up. I've been out of the country for 12 years. So when I got into eligibility for that, I dealt with them and I said, I'm not living in America. I'm not coming back to America. So I don't have any of it. I don't no, I didn't sign up for Obamacare or Part One. I have nothing. I have nothing.
Lori, sorry, go ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead, Len. Sorry.
Lori, go on.
I was going to say, I kept everything. And this year I was going to drop some of it, and it's harder to get out of it. So it's not a problem. I just kept it. And if I ever need, I have friends in America. I was a nurse. So if I ever needed something that I wanted to go back to the States for, I could. Although I don't have a need. And as somebody else said, the healthcare in Israel is by far the best. I mean, even my American doctors used to say, you're going somewhere where they have the best medicine in the entire world. And I went, okay,
Right. What were you going to say, Lynn?
So I when I turned 65, there was Medicare Part A and Part B. Part A is just hospitalization. Part B you have to pay for, and that's doctors. So what I did, and Part A comes for free,
right?
Once you hit 65. So I kept my Part A, did not opt for a Part B. So this way, if I travel to America, and God forbid I wind up in a hospital, at least I have some medical coverage in the United States. But there's also traveler's insurance that for health emergencies when you're overseas.
Right. Yep. And Lynn, remind me, where in Ramat Beit Shemesh, which neighborhood do you live in? A few people
Aleph.
ask. And Aleph.
I'm at the end of Aleph, right before Hay.
Okay, great. There's a question here about meeting people, being able to socialize, mingle. If somebody's coming single, what are not just single, I guess, just from the social point of view. Gail, what are your thoughts? Like, have you met most of your friends through the shul, or how did you meet a lot of your friends?
A lot of my friends that I knew from Philadelphia made Aliyah before us. I have friends those friends have introduced us to more friends. I have cousins in Yerushalayim and they've introduced us. I knew people before I came, and they've introduced us to more people.
Okay. Great. There's a question here about wills, and so I know from experience with the family member that you should have wills in the States and in Israel, especially if you have property in Israel, if you have assets in Israel. then you want to
Yes.
have, it's not complicated. You can write a rider that can be almost like an addendum to your will, but it is something that you should have in place for sure. Okay, there's a question here about banks. And I think with banks, it really depends on where you're located. There's a number of large banks, and some of the banks only allow Olim to go to specific branches of those banks. Some of them are more flexible. And so it really, once you figure out where you're moving to, then you can go ahead and talk to people in the neighborhood and figure out which banks they recommend. I think that will help you.
I think it also, and the wisdom that I learned from people before I came was it depends on the branch. When I lived in Herzliya, I joined one bank, was very happy, moved to Nahariya. After a couple of months, I switched to somewhere else because of the atmosphere of the branch and how easy they were to work with. So you might talk to the people there and see what they recommend.
Then there's a couple of questions wanting to know where Shaya and Leah live. You guys did such a great job selling Netanya, so they live in northern part of Netanya.
Yes, we live. It's called Nitza, which translates as niece. It's Netanya is known as the French Riviera of Israel, the Riviera of Israel.
Right.
And Nitza area is very quaint and charming. You can walk around. There's lots of restaurants, stores, laundries, markets.
And if you're interested, the
hair salons.
The Sanzer Rebbe's Tish is about 800 meters from our door.
And that's also where the Laniado Hospital is, the main hospital, the only hospital really in Netanya. It's within walking distance to our home.
Okay. Gail, and what part of Jerusalem do you live in? A couple people want to know what neighborhood you're in.
Okay, it's like border German colony. It's German colony, basically. It's like real. It's like I could walk to the mall. It's like I could almost wave to the mall. I can do grocery shopping nearby. It's like really everything is close by. I have my little bubby cart that I take.
Right. Okay, wonderful. There's a question here about Social Security. So obviously that's an important topic, and there's some details. But what I can tell you is that in most cases, you can get your Social Security payment made directly paid into your Israeli bank account. It's done kind of an auto deposit, and it's super easy to set up. And so that's something that you can just keep in mind, that it's one of the things that's not too complicated to set up here in Israel. Then there's a question about buying, and it's a good question. Buying before you make Aliyah. If somebody's thinking about maybe buying and then making Aliyah in the future, and this is something that's important for people who live in Israel as well. There is a purchase tax which can add a lot to the price of a property. The purchase tax typically for Israelis starts at 8% and then can go up to 12% depending on the price of the property. For people who are making Aliyah, or people who buy before they make Aliyah, they can get a discounted purchase tax, which might be as low as 0.5%. Now, there's specific requirements, like for example, if you buy it before you make Aliyah, you can only do it within a year. So you have to make Aliyah within a year, and then you can apply for a refund. If you do it after you make Aliyah, I believe it's 7 years that you have. But that is a very important part, or important point to keep in mind, is that there is the new Olim discount, we'll call it that way. And there's also a purchase, there's a discount if it's your first apartment. So it depends on your situation. You might be eligible for one or both. That's something that we can talk to you about. But to answer your question, if you're thinking about making Aliyah, you might want to buy, and then, if it's within a year, definitely look to, to get that refund, because it is a big difference. Okay, let's just scrolling through here. I know we're running a little long. We'll just run for a couple more minutes just to try and answer some of the people's questions. Let's see, we've covered a lot of those.
Rafi, you cut out.
No, I'm just looking at the questions. I'm just scrolling through here to see. There's a lot of questions that came through. There are questions here about adult children with disabilities, and there's a lot of services. I won't get into details now because it's a pretty complex thing, but Israel is really on the forefront of providing support and providing programs for people who have disabilities from a young age to an older age. And so there's a lot that the country has to offer. In fact, I know a lot of people who have made Aliyah because of that, because of the support that their children can get. And so, again, it's something that we can get into. We can get into and talk more about. Okay, let's see here. We'll just scroll down quickly. And then people are just asking for different referrals, different doctors, accountants. So if you have any questions, reach out to us, reach out to me, and I'll be happy to forward on your questions to everybody who has joined the presentation here. But I want to take a moment again and thank each one of you for joining us tonight, for sharing your insights, for sharing your wisdom and your advice. I know that I found it very helpful. And I've been living here for 8 years already. I think you can always learn more from people, and hopefully everybody that has joined us tonight has found this helpful as well. We will be doing other webinars, so be on the lookout for other topics and other webinars that we do. And I just want to thank you again. Have a good week, a safe week, and take care of yourself. Good night, everybody. Take care.
Good night. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.